The Gladiator 2 trailer is perhaps one of the worst trailers ever released in the history of mankind. It's so bad that your brain physically cannot process every single way in which it shit the bed. And even worse, the more you know about the time period and the characters involved, the worse it gets. It's like a moral and intellectual black hole, and the closer you get to the heart of this movie, the darker and bleaker everything in your life becomes. And I'm not exaggerating here. I'm almost 40 years old, which means like most people my age, I've lived long enough to see the franchises I grew up with get bought up, retconned, and die horrible woke deaths. But Gladiator was one of those movies I thought was safe. What else could you do with the story? It's over. And if you knew even a minimum about Roman history, the melancholy hits hard when you realize that despite the greatness of Marcus Aurelius and his Stoic philosophy, it was indeed all downhill from there. Last year, I decided to take this channel and focus it on one of my hobbies, Roman history. And while normally I'm content to roll my eyes and ignore modern hot takes on the greatest empire in history, this time I can't just sit back and watch. So allow me to take you on a journey through time and space, dear viewers, and together we can delve into just how bad Gladiator 2 will actually be. The trailer starts with a flashback of Maximus's death at the end of the first movie. We're introduced to Lucius, son of Lucilla, and the nephew of former Emperor Commodus, which makes it immediately confusing when Lucius claims that he does not know where he's from, and that he never knew his mother or his father. Is he lying? Has he suffered some kind of amnesia? We don't know, and believe me, I don't think we're meant to care. What's more important is who Lucius is talking to, an aristocratic-looking Denzel Washington, who tells Lucius that he will become his instrument. We're then treated to an assortment of shots of Rome and the Colosseum, which is in the process of being flooded for a mock naval battle, something that really happened and is pretty cool to be honest, before being introduced to who we can assume will be the primary villains of our story, the brothers turned co-emperors, Caracalla and Geta. As an aside, this would put us squarely in the year 211 AD. Now I'm not going to be a huge stickler for dates and time frames. The actual Commodus, for example, reigned for around 12 years, but Gladiator makes it feel like his rise and fall occurred over the course of perhaps a single year at most. What is relevant here for us, though, is the emperors, specifically Caracalla, as he had Geta killed within mere months of the two ascending to the purple. The brothers absolutely hated each other, and perhaps the division between the two men is going to be central to the plot of Gladiator 2. Central, or at least a significant B-plot that will help tie events together. We're also introduced to General Acacius, who is seen brushing off a sword that Caracalla has resting on his shoulder, much to the Emperor's chagrin, and this is where things start to get confusing. Immediately after, we see a battle scene seemingly involving Roman against Roman forces in an unknown coastal location. Now, when Geta and Caracalla took power, they were both with their father in Britain, leading a campaign against the Caledonians. But upon the conclusion of the campaign, the brothers undertook no further military actions, let alone a civil war. Confused, I went to the Wikipedia page for answers, where I found this summary of the movie. Over 2 decades after the original events of Gladiator, Lucius, the grandson of Rome's former emperor Marcus Aurelius and son of Lucilla, lives with his wife and child in Numidia. Roman soldiers led by General Marcus Aurelius invade, forcing Lucius into slavery. Wait. Hold your horses. Numidia? As in Africa? As in the part of Africa Proconsularis that was split into its own smaller coastal province? As in the province that's been under full Roman control for more than 2 centuries at this point? Why? Why is Rome invading a Roman province? Did they invent an uprising here? So the writers need a way to make Lucius a gladiator, so the way they accomplish this is to have him run away from Rome, change his identity, hide in Africa for long enough that he gets married and has a child, all the while developing significant martial skills, enough to where we see him leading forces against Acacius? Oh, and we already know that this is his wife having a girl boss moment, right? Because of course, she has to be a badass and go out like a real heroine. Gotta check those boxes. Alright, let's put all that on the back burner. So Lucius gets captured and sold into slavery, where he's bought by Denzel Washington, thus shedding a bit more light on his character. He's a rich man, perhaps a civilized Berber noble similar to Lucius Quietus, a general who served under Trajan. Now, the Berbers aren't a single ethnic group. In fact, after looking this up, I'm only aware of one of the far southern tribes that were actually dark-skinned, so it's a little far-fetched, but I don't hate it yet. Then, after a teaser of a video game rhinoceros boss fight where our protagonist uses the Dale Gribble-approved strategy of pocket sand,
Pocket sand! Yeah!
we get to the second most confusing line of the trailer. Denzel Washington asks Lucius, "Whose head could I give you that would satisfy this fury?" To which Lucius replies, "The entire Roman armies."
Oh man! Oh God! Oh man!
I don't need to remind you all that this is the protagonist saying this. Our Roman hero, the grandson of Marcus Aurelius himself, who I assume is supposed to be everything that Commodus wasn't, saying that he wants revenge on the entire Roman army? Really? I know that modern media hates the idea of competent men running strong empires, but Jesus, now we can't even have a protagonist who is supposed to be the very embodiment of the Roman state that actually likes the state of Rome. And then the big moment comes. With rap music blaring in the background, Denzel Washington approaches the seats of the consuls in the Senate House, rubs them erotically while a bunch of white men watch him, and utters the line, "Rome must fall. I need only give it a little push." Then, after a few other scenes of no consequence, we return to the Senate House where we see said senators all rise up to their feet and salute Denzel. And that's when my fears were all but confirmed. We had Black Cleopatra, and now we're going to have our first Black Emperor of Rome.
Oh God, here it comes! Oh, hot, 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 hot! Hot, 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 hot!
Valentine, you're out of your mind, I hear you say. But all it took for me to unravel the truth was a quick search for the name of the character Denzel Washington plays to confirm it, and that name is Macrinus. That's right, the man who in real life assassinated Caracalla and took the throne. The man who also holds the dubious honor of being the first Roman emperor never to set foot in Rome. And of course, an emperor that hails from Africa. And because now for some reason people equate all Africans with black, well, here we are. I can picture the writers frothing at the mouth after their 30-second Wikipedia search yields them the first 2 paragraphs of Macrinus' biography. An African man who didn't hail from the elitist senatorial class, and one who overthrew a cruel emperor to boot. Now we just throw on a fresh coat of paint, rewrite the character to make him a former slave, and bam, mission accomplished, boys. We did it. I'm not even going to talk about the rest of the trailer. Lucilla gives Lucius Maximus's ring, and we see Lucius fighting Cassius in the arena. But who cares? I'm not even sure who the protagonist of this movie is supposed to be. Is it Lucius, the spoiled brat turned runaway who wants to bring down the Roman state? Or is it Macrinus, the conniving psychopath who wants to bring down the Roman state? Or is it Caracalla and Geta, who are also determined to rule so poorly that they usher in the downfall of the Roman state? Who are these people? What are we doing here? Why does everyone hate Rome? And that's the real question, isn't it? Ever since this fat mop appeared on Wired to tell you that the Roman Empire am bad, things have really gone downhill. The beauty of Rome, at least for a lot of us Westerners, is it presents a point in time where we were united. The historian Edward Gibbon said it best on the very first page of his book, The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. The frontiers of that extensive monarchy were guarded by ancient renown and disciplined valor. The gentle but powerful influence of laws and manners had gradually cemented the union of the provinces. Their peaceful inhabitants enjoyed and abused the advantages of wealth and luxury. The image of a free constitution was preserved with decent reverence. The Roman Senate appeared to possess the sovereign authority and devolved on the emperors all the executive powers of government. And don't get me wrong, I understand that this movie is supposed to take place during one of the most corrupt dynasties to ever rule Rome, perhaps even the one that most assured the empire's destruction, by completely deflating the economy and turning the power of government over to the legions and their generals. I understand that this is a degenerate age, and it's precisely because of that fact that we need a hero who represents the old ways, not some whiny bitch who gets used because of his emotional instability. A man who sees the wisdom and virtue in those who came before him, and seeks to restore some semblance of honor and discipline to a society in desperate need of both. But instead, we have to be spoon-fed another American shit show, and listen as some non-fat milk drinkers proceed to tell us how stunning and brave it is to throw garbage in people's faces and call it art. I guess we'll have to wait until November to see, but I'm calling it now. This movie is going to be shit. just like every other piece of rum content made in the last 20 years. Who knows? Maybe one day we can have media like the original Gladiator or HBO's Rome again. But sadly, that day is not today, and that movie is not Gladiator 2.